What's up, guys? This is Jackie O, the OG original Black digital nomad and globetrotting mama. And I am so excited today because I am doing one of my first podcast slash blog interviews where I sit down with one of my sister girlfriends who is doing the most and chat with her and hopefully inspire and educate you so that you can move abroad or travel full time. And I'm super pumped and excited about today's guest because I have known her for over 20 years and I am still in awe of her. She is just a shero of mine. When you first see her coming up, first thing you'll say is, wow, geez, she's gorgeous. And she is. But she's not only that, she is a fantastic artist, musician. She is dynamic. She's an amazing mother. She's super kind and generous. And I'm just so super pumped for this interview today. So I hope you guys enjoy it. She is doing the most in Paris, France, which I know, especially for a lot of Black females, has this kind of nostalgia associated with it. Thinking about like Josephine Baker, which is the first question I ask her, just because most people, when they think Black American female artist in Paris, who comes to mind? Josephine Baker in her chateau with like her 15 rainbow tribe from all over the world, dancing her world famous banana dance. And there are so many, and I love Josephine. She's definitely an inspiration for me, and she was doing the most when Black women weren't given that opportunity. So kudos to her. But I also am enamored with Crystal as well because she is doing the most and she's doing it her own way. She's doing it as a mom, she's doing it as an artist, she's doing it as a Black American woman. And I know you guys will be just as impressed with her and just as amazed with her as I am. So stay tuned and let's get to it. And I have no idea why I'm in grass today, but I just was like, let's walk in the grass. I'm talking to an artist today. Maybe that's very bohemian. But guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you are listening, don't forget to like and subscribe because I'm doing this both as a podcast and as a blog as well. And of course, don't forget to visit my website, www.thejackiolife.com. Let's get to it. I can't sing, or I would sing some sort of intro. And even if I could, I wouldn't sing when I'm getting ready to introduce a professional singer. This is Jackie O, and welcome to Black Women Doing the Most, the travel edition. I am so super pumped. I could not sleep last night because I am interviewing a Wonder Woman today. I have been stalking this girl since Spelman when she was on a reality TV show. You thought I forgot. and then she did the ultimate deuces and was like, you know what, US deuces, I'm going to do the most in France. So not mad at her. She's living the life. Like when I was telling people I was going to interview her, I was getting comments all over the place. She is an amazing musician, artist, living in Paris, France. Talk about living the dream. Like how many people have said they want to do that? But how many of us actually know somebody doing it, making it happen? And she's been doing it for what, 20 plus years now, Crystal?
Yeah.
Like
20 years.
it's not a fad for her. Like she's got it going on. She's in like following in the footsteps of lots of like Black American artists. You think of all the artists out of the Harlem Renaissance and that whole tradition of Black American artists going to France and finding themselves and finding their voices. So welcome, Crystal!
Hey, thank you for having me.
No, I'm so super pumped to have you. I know that like for so many people, like live in France is like a dream. especially like Black people, because they have heard like the stories of like the 1920s and 1930s of like the
Yeah.
artists who all went there, the 40s.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to start it off with first, like, and I told you this before, like, do you live in a chateau?
I do not live in a chateau. Chateau Crystal may come one
Like,
day, but that's not where I live. I live in an
okay.
apartment.
You don't have 15 kids that you
I
adopted
don't.
all over the world. You
Nope.
don't dance to bananas every night.
Sounds familiar, but that's not me. No, unfortunately, or fortunately, no. Mm-mm. I got two. It feels like 15, though. It feels like
But
15.
you have like made a life for yourself, but as an artist, as a musician,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
tell me about like one, how did you end up in France? And I know a lot of questions I got from people when I was telling them I was interviewed, they were like, because I told them you speak French, but you
Mhm.
didn't move to France speaking French. And people are like, oh, what was easy for her because she speaks French? But I'm like, she didn't start off that way. Like,
Well, I studied abroad. I
yeah,
minored in French at
okay.
Spelman. I minored in French, but I wasn't the best French student. I think I was very sweet to Madame Edwards, and she was
Okay.
very sweet and forgiving to me.
Okay.
I had a lot of help from my roomies, Robin Stokes and all them. They tolerated me because they came in there talking about. I was like, duh. And I don't even know how I tested into that particular class, but I had studied in Martinique for a summer. Didn't learn anything. People thought I was from there. They were speaking to me in Creole, and I was like, "Look, y'all, I gotta do better." So I had studied at the business school in '98 for a semester, and that's where I met my really good friend, who ultimately ended up being my husband years later. That will come. And I auditioned to be in his band so I could be in the mix with French people and kind of stay away from the Americans. And I learned, some good phrases and stuff like that. Most of my classes were in English. And he spoke to me in English. I was like, gosh, I'm trying to learn this French and everybody's speaking to me in English. But I just continued, and I was a stickler for just writing down phrases, and it was very musical to me, just like any language. And so I don't know, I was imitating people, and it just came little by little. Then I went back to school, graduated, um, and I could have gone several different ways. I was interning on Wall Street. I had gotten into Harvard to study law, and I just was like, nope. And then I got a Fulbright to teach English. And so I was like, let me buy me some time. Before that, I auditioned for a little show called Pop Stars. I'm so mad you brought that in. Not at all. And I didn't even see it because they filmed it in advance.
Uh-huh.
And I was here when it aired. And
Oh,
this was pre Facebook and all this. So I was getting all these phone calls. People were paying, because back then it cost a lot of money to call a foreign country. People were paying to tell me they saw me on TV and stuff. And I got emails. And so I literally saw that show like 15 years later. And that's only I don't know, I refused to watch it. I love the friends that I made from there. I'm still friends with a lot of those people, but it's like I kind of turned a page, and I just started a new chapter. And so I came here, and I had a 6-month contract, and I just during that time was knocking out music. Nothing at all to do with my econ major. I was like, I want to do music here, and I want to learn French, like learn French. And so Fred, he had his band. We, joined forces. I only had to work 12 hours a week for the Fulbright. And during the rest of my time, we made music. And so we were singing in little bars and, getting paid like $50 here, €50 here, a couple beers there, and I kind of like hit the ground running. And so then I extended my contract by another year. And yeah, and then in that time, I had learned French really well because I was practicing. I was only speaking French. I was no longer scared to make mistakes because that's a biggie. People, want to be perfectionists, or they're scared of people making fun of them. And I just let all that go.
okay.
So by then, my French was really good. I was even writing in French. And then I
Wow,
started.
French grammar is not easy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I just started making connections here and there. And we went to Thailand and Vietnam and performed for the French embassies and stuff like that. And just little by little, that 6-month time period turned to a year, turned to 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and my mom stopped asking when I was coming back.
Now, would you say like just building up like your music career? Would you say that was like your personality? Because just a lot of people are like, well, how do I like so you land like you
Hmm.
speak some French and you
Yeah.
like connect with a band, but like, what would
Hmm.
advice would you give somebody else who's like, I want to do what she's doing, what she's doing?
Well, a lot of okay, things have changed in 20 years because this is a specific, industry that has just completely changed in front of our eyes. It's no longer you have to go and make a CD and have a record exec listen to it and you're like, oh my God, did he listen? Now a lot of this is done on the internet. You produce your own album, you make your own connections, and it's like direct one to one with your audience. But back then, it was all about the connections that you made. And this was definitely one instance where I was more of a rare commodity because I was Black American and they loved all things jazz, soul, R&B. And here I am all of a sudden, and I'm authentic. So I remember everywhere I went, I pretty much got jobs because first of all, I laid on the American accent really thick, and then they're like, "Oh my God, you're American." You're like, for real American, girl. To this day, my friend Asha, she gets on me. She is from the Alvin Ailey troupe. She was a dancer with them, and she's a real dancer. She gets on me because I needed a job to supplement that, and so I went up to this dance school and told them I was a hip hop dance teacher. Child, they believed me because I was Black American. I got up in there that first day. I was like, and 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I worked there for a year and a half. But I was always saying that I could do all this stuff all the time. Half the time, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Songwriting for some things, I was like, oh my God, this is out of my range, but I'm gonna do it. And just I don't know it's personality, it's perseverance, it's not giving up, and also if you don't know what the hell you're doing, find out how to do it or find somebody who does know what they're doing to teach you or to work with you. And so I think it was a combination of all that, and then it gave me more and more confidence. The bigger the jobs that I got, the more my confidence built up. Because there were times where I was like, oh my God, I graduated from Spelman. I was accepted to this school. I was accepted to, these particular companies on Wall Street. I had an offer. What did I do? So I had those like, what in the hell moments, you know what I mean? And of course, throughout all that, I missed my family. I missed my girlfriends. I saw how, some of our Spelman sisters were going on vacation together, or they were, I don't know, they did all these things. I was like, eating my baguette. I don't eat baguette so much anymore, but back then that's pretty much what I could afford. I'm eating my baguette. What am I doing? But at the same time, I also liked being able to go to a cafe, to spend 60 cents at the time, and sit there all day and write songs. A freedom that I didn't really have in the States, because that waitress would be like, can you get out of my section? And here in France, they'd be like, don't worry, you can stay there all day. It's okay. So I ended up writing like 2 albums like that. That was like the cheapest budget ever. I didn't even have to pay to rent a space. I just went to a cafe. And so there were little moments like that, or just walking along the Seine River, and just seeing how beautiful it was. And of course, it wasn't all peachy and rosy, but I must say it was a lot easier for me here than it was there, because I tried it out for a second in Atlanta, and it was hardcore. You know what I mean? It was a lot of competition, and I don't know that I was made for that in that particular place. You know what I mean? But here, like I'm saying, I got here, and I like to talk to people anyways. So I was just knocking down doors. Hip hop dance teacher, that's me. English coach, that's me. Rapper. I was just, I don't know what the hell I was like. When I look back, I'm like, what was I doing? But I did it.
So like when you were there, did you ever like stress money? Because that's probably the biggest thing I get asked by like Black women who want to move abroad. Like, how am I gonna make money? How am I gonna afford to live there? And especially when you're talking about like Europe, like I live in a country where I can live in under $1,000 a month, right? Like most of
Yeah,
the time. That ain't
yeah.
that ain't Paris, France.
No, no. Did I stress about money? There were definitely times. Now, I did come over here. I was an econ major and I worked on Wall Street, and I came from a family that was very much like, especially my dad, he's like, you got to save money and all this other stuff. And when I went to Spelman, I got a full ride to Spelman. And so I didn't have those loans. So I started off pretty okay. Even if I had started at zero, I would have been better off than some people who had loans and stuff like that. Um, so the little money that I did save, I kind of really made it work for me. I got a really cheap apartment here. I didn't spend much on, I ate like rice and just the basics.
Sure, you did good.
Yeah, there were a lot of free things that I could go to here, and there still are. A
Okay.
lot of free meetups, a lot of exchanges. I did things that way. And there's also a thing that's specific to France. And specific to artists here, working artists. And I was able to obtain a certain status, which allowed me to get a stipend every month as long as I made my hours.
Okay.
And that is a very, 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 very specific and very special status that's getting harder and harder to get because France, socialist country, they want to give to everybody, give to you, and you get a car, and you get this. You know what I mean? I'm exaggerating, but that means that they are also in debt, and so they're trying to reduce that debt, and they're cutting off the fat from certain programs, and so. But once you do get those hours, you get a certain stability. And also, again, this is a country where if you were dirt broke, if you walk down to town hall and pledge your case, you could walk out with like $1,000 check at the time. Now it's changed a little bit, but you still can get, you can get money. And also, like when you have a child here, you get money. I remember when my twins were born, I was like, this, and that was regardless of your income. You could have been making seven figures,
Okay.
just like you could have been, extremely, extremely poor, and you would have gotten money. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
were you scared to have it? Because I get a question that a lot. Were you scared to have a kid in a foreign country?
Hell no. I would have been scared to have it there, have
Oh, I
them
agree.
there.
I agree.
Oh, no, 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 no,
I
no,
was
no,
thinking
no,
the
no.
mortality rates for Black mothers in America.
This is what I'm saying because a lot of my friends had their kids before me,
Mhm.
and I heard horror stories. And it didn't matter their class. These were all black women. And one of my other best friends who's Indian, just terrifying stories. And I was just like, wow, and had a couple of them not insisted and said, I know my body, you have to check
Yep.
me out, then things could have gone sour. And I was like, it was the opposite here. When I gave birth, first of all, I owed $50 at the end of a 8-day hospital stay in a room by
With
myself
twins?
with twins, C-section. I owed $50. Why? Because I requested a TV that I never even looked at it, and I thought I would need a television in my room. I never even watched the TV, and that was my bill. It was $50, and I had my own private room overlooking a garden, and I had 24-hour care. They were the ones that came in there by day 5, and they're like, "Would you like to stay a couple extra days? Just to get into the swing of things." And then they had a breastfeeding specialist that came and worked with me every day because I had opted to breastfeed the twins. Yeah, and then she accompanied me as well, and then a different lady for a month at my house if I
I
needed help.
have a question for you about
Mhm.
breastfeeding because I did read Bringing Up Bebe. And guys, if you don't know that, it's a woman, American woman who lives in France, talks about raising her kids the French way. Is breastfeeding accepted in France?
you
Because it's
know,
not
it,
clear from that book.
because what?
It's not clear from that book. It seems like she was kind of going against what the French norm was.
What the French was, and it's so very odd. Okay, so the short answer to that question is depends on your circle.
Okay.
In my circle, it was highly accepted. My circle of American friends, French, very open women, you know what I mean? Artistes.
Okay.
Now, once you got into the more like, I can only speak to, well, actually, even in the south of France, my sister-in-law's from there. They kind of like were like, I can't be done. I can't be bothered with that. You know what I mean? I don't have time. Or why would you want to do that? You can just give him the bottle and then we can go and have a coffee. Things like that. On the flip side, they offered you so many breastfeeding classes and courses. So it's kind of like, nobody's going to shun you if you go to the cafe. The difference is like you can be outside and you'll see women breastfeeding their kids and nobody's going to be like,
Okay.
oh my God. Then again, this is France where, to sell like, I don't know, a car, you got like a naked woman. So it's not an issue of, seeing a naked body. It's more of a like, well, we don't have to do that today. For those that choose not to. Like that's how My sister-in-law was, and she's like, "Look at you, you look so tired." I was like, "Oh God." But yeah, I mean, again, nobody's going to shun you for it, but you will encounter quite a few women that don't really opt to breastfeed. And those in my circle that did happen to be Americans, or again, French women that thought a little bit differently and out of the box, or, French women who were, I don't know, artists, something about those artists.
Yeah,
So,
they're always, those artists always shaking things up.
okay.
So then, like, let's talk a little bit about like daycare because
Yes.
the crash is something else she talks about. Like, did your kids go? Like, what was that experience like? Like,
Yes,
how
they
long did you
did.
get off? All that stuff.
So, okay, so when I found out that I was expecting twins, I was on tour with a very, very big, older, I don't know, Frank Sinatra type,
Yeah, yeah.
French guy, who it's to date, it's one of the last huge French tours that has taken place. And so I had been on tour with him for about 2 years, 3 years. And so I found out I was pregnant. I told him, and they had to readjust everything I was wearing because at the time they had us in like these tight fitted bustier things. I was like, look, that ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? And the lady that was fitting us at the place, the Gucci place, she was like, I know that you went to Italy 2 weeks ago, but did you eat too much pasta? And I did not dare tell her I was expecting twins because it's true that at that particular time in my brain I was like, oh my God, I'm an artist, but I'm gonna have a baby. But what do I do? But I'm on tour, and so I just my contract was signed, and then I just came out and told them, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. So I got to wear a dress that they adjusted and altered every single week up until I was 5 months pregnant and on the road, and I loved it.
Wait, you
And
were on the road till you were
I
5 months?
was on stage with these stiletto heels, looking like I was. People were like, "Oh, it's any day now." I'm like, "I'm 5 months pregnant with twins." You know what I mean? Damn it! And so then I came off of that tour. That was like in January, and from the time I came off January, end of January, to the time I gave birth, well, I was covered by French maternity leave, and they had all these programs that I could join. They had all these people call, and they're like, "Oh, okay. Do you have any questions?" I joined a multiples group as well to answer my questions because I was freaking out. Because I didn't have any family here, and my husband has a very, very, it's the opposite of me. He's a very small family, and so then I could have stayed on maternity leave for an extra 6 months after they're born,
This is like
but
unbelievable for most Americans. Like mind blowing.
paid all this is paid maternity leave. And of course that check came that I talked to you about earlier when you gave birth, like by your third or fourth kid here, you got a ton of money. Let me stop. But yeah, I was like, I just got a check for the kids, and then I got a couple packs of diapers, and I've got this welcome kit, and then I had a
Like, this
cleaning
is from the
service.
government or this
Yeah,
is
yeah, 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 yeah. I got a cleaning service for a month. Now I got more because I was expecting twins.
okay.
Now it's a little less when you have a single child, but still, you know what I mean. Not only did I have a near zero bill, I had an extended stay that was, that came from them. They were the
Eight
ones
days.
that suggested it.
8 days is unreal.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't have to take those 8 days. I've had three girlfriends have three American friends have kids recently,
Mhm.
and they were good. They opted to go home by day three. They,
They
by
opted.
day,
Like, you in the hospital day 2, I don't care if it's cesarean, you're like, bye, get out of here.
right,
You pooped,
exactly, right.
bye. Like, you pooped, bye.
Exactly. So from what I've heard, and so to answer your question, girl, hecky no. There is no way that I was scared at all. I went and visited the different hospitals. Now there is the American hospital in Paris where you could pay
Okay.
full price. You pay American prices. But why would I do that? Just so I could, have some, I don't know, elevator music and some American staff waiting on. No, 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 no. I went to the same place that my husband actually was born. His brother was born, and his mother was born, and it's right in my neighborhood, and it's a beautiful clinic. and it actually was for people, from women giving birth to single children and not necessarily multiples, because that's considered high risk.
Okay.
But they had an ambulance waiting outside for me because right down the street was the children's hospital.
No, they had a
Yeah,
ambulance waiting for you in case.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
your bill was
So
still $50 because you just wanted the TV.
because I wanted a TV, girl, that I never watched. Then got the nerve to be mad to that I spent $50. It's like that's $50.
Let me take my 40 something year old butt and like try to have a kid in France now. Your old self, though, sit out.
Oh, you say that, but I got so many friends. They're like, how can I be down? Let me come on over to France, to Paris, child, have me a baby. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I like, to me, the concept, like when I looked at my cousin's bills for her three kids after her insurance kicked in, I was like, excuse me, come again. I've been living here too long, and it's far from perfect. But on that end, I can never complain. I think I've seen every doctor from my head to my toe possible, and just paid little to nothing. You know what I mean? So, and that in the States, I think twice. Even when I go home and I have to buy special insurance for non-resident U.S. citizens, I look at the what it covers. I'm like, oh God, I would have to pay like 10,000, and then they would pay me. I don't even, my brain can't even wrap itself around that idea. So
And the
no,
healthcare is the same for your kids too. Like you can take them to like all their regular checkups, and you don't have any issues, right? Like it's not
exactly.
you're not stressing a $500 bill because that's not happening.
Oh no, 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 no. I can take that. Yeah, you can choose your doctor. You can choose your pediatrician. You can choose your family doctor after a certain age. And as far as the creche, the daycare, my children went to daycare. I put them in there when they were 4.5 months
Oh wow,
because,
okay.
yeah, because I knew that I needed to get back out there in the music business. I knew that it was a shady business. You know what I mean? And no matter how much they loved you, things were changing so fast, and you can be replaced for certain things. You know what I mean? And also, I'm just be honest, I love them so much, and they know I love them, but I also loved being with artists.
Thank you for saying that.
You
Crystal,
know what
thank
I
you
mean?
so much
I
for
just
like, making that clear. Funny that because people don't understand. I'm like, I love my daughter, but I also love my work. Like I actually
yes,
legitimately love my
I
work.
loved that. You know what I mean? And so I just could not. This is just me. I couldn't conceive of just staying home with my twins, and basking in their twinness. Like, oh, and that is great for some
Yes.
moms, dads, whatever. That was not me. And so I knew that it might be kind of hard in our particular neighborhood to get two spots because it's a
Mhm.
very weird system. You can either go public, which is what we did,
Okay.
and it's based on your income. So some
Oh,
people might pay a euro a day, and some people
for
might pay
childcare?
for the daycare, yes, and some people might
Good
pay,
childcare. Good
yeah,
childcare.
yeah, 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 yeah. And some people, because I remember I was signing my contract and my eyes kind of rolled over to my neighbors. I was like, she paying y'all. I couldn't complain though, because I mean, even if we were paying on the higher end, it still was nothing like what my cousin was telling me, for her three kids at the time. And I was like, that's ridiculous. So we wrote a really sappy, like we put together a dossier. We put everything in there. I went and found a social worker. I was like, look, you write how we need these two spots in this
So it is,
daycare.
it is an application process though.
Yes. Well, you have to go when you're, like 7 months pregnant. You go and you meet with the director of that daycare,
Mhm.
and you sit and you talk with her or him, and you basically tell him or her why you need that spot. You know what I mean? And my husband is a business owner, and I'm an artist, so we're two independent. Like we needed that to
Yeah,
work,
exactly.
and so we wrote a letter, an accompanying letter. You don't have to do all that. You can just literally fill out the application, but we needed some weight behind that. And so then we got those two spots. And then on top of that, I had a nanny that would help me out 3 times a week and pick up the boys when I couldn't.
And how did you find the nanny? Because that's always a question I also get.
Right. I found, well, I had looked and looked because I was so scared to leave my, I'm a mama bear child. I was like, I don't know these people. So I had a girl who was wonderful, and she was actually Canadian, English speaking Canadian. So for me, that was perfect. But she was a student and didn't stay. And so then I went through a service, an agency, and I interviewed like three or four girls, and I fell in love with their nanny at the time, named Solène, that they still remember and love. And she lives in our neighborhood as well.
Okay.
And at the time, up until your child is 6, anything that's daycare related or nanny related, you can write off 50% on your taxes. This is after paying like the pace, the rate for this according to your salary. So I was like, why not? You know what I mean? And a couple times she accompanied me on studio sets and stuff because by then I was doing TV and film and stuff like that, and I needed to be there. But so that's how I did. That's how I found Solène. Some of my other girlfriends have found reliable nannies through word of mouth. And in each particular neighborhood, like it's a lot of times it's some of the same nannies. So if you know that this child is going to turn 3,
Mm-hmm.
then you can start saying stuff like, well, listen, we love our nanny, but our child has to go to school because that's the thing. In France, daycare stops at 3. You
Oh.
can't send your child after 3. And you have, I think they recently changed it, maybe last year, but at least up until last year, you could either send your child to school. So from 3, they go to school, 3.5, 4, 5, all the way up, or they would have to start, sorry, at 5. But now I think they've changed the law that they have to start at 4. And so I put my children in school. It's just like an extended daycare, to be honest, at 3 years old. And you
Is
visit
that
the
another
school.
application process, Crystal? Like you have to do another dossier?
Well, you can either go, public, and that depends on where you live. But some people are like, I don't like that school. That school has a bad reputation. So you can go private, and that's what we did because I didn't necessarily care for the school that we were attached to, and the private school wasn't that expensive. It was not like some prices in the States, and they had an English speaking program. And so that's why when I went there, and we were the first, we got the dates online, and we literally set up I was going to say a rendezvous. We set up an appointment, an appointment, an appointment, right? To be the first parents, and so we got the first 2 spots, and loved it. And they stayed there for the first 3 years of their school
So Crystal, I'm
boyhood.
because like I get this so much, and I've talked to you about this. Is like
Hmm.
your kids that have a Black American mother. Like, how do
Hmm.
you keep the like one? They're bilingual, right? So they speak
Yes,
English and French,
yes,
right?
and they speak Noonanese for the Noonan Georgia girl.
Thank you. But like I get asked so much about like Ruth, who that isn't even 2 yet. How do I keep her connected to like Black American culture? Which I'm like,
Okay, it starts with me, first of all. You know what
exactly.
I mean? I mean, here in this house, first of all, like everywhere in this house, they can't help but, beside, they see their mama, but they can't help but see all the pieces of black art that I have all around the house. Mostly done by my good girlfriend, Kim's brother-in-law, who designed the book cover and all the pages for the official Obama book when he was elected. So I got that one too. So there's that. I mean, I'd say a good chunk of my girlfriends and guy friends are black, either black American, black Caribbean, or just from various countries, mostly Ivory Coast,
Okay.
Senegal, Ghana. They can't help but be exposed. What do we listen to the most? Like my kid's favorite movie is you gonna laugh. The Last Dragon. One of my kids thinks he is Bruce Leroy and he wants his brother to be shown up girl. So he walks around talking about who's the master. So
Shout
I think we got it covered. Not to mention that I just grew the biggest batch of Georgia collard greens on my Parisian balcony. And you know what I mean? And my kids are good. When they come home, when we go to Newnan, Georgia, and it is like, everybody just descends upon my mama's house. And I got a big old family. My kids, they're just, thrown right in. They're right there at the barbecue, eating and having a good time and dancing. So if anything, I'd be worried about kids that aren't exposed to different things out in the world. Shoot. My kids are able to adapt. You know what I mean? They are able to they ask a lot of questions. They're curious. I don't know. They're little warriors.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? They're little black warriors. I have approached the subject of what's been going on in the states.
Mhm.
Um, just ugh, just so sad. But I've tried to use appropriate uh, kid-friendly language to approach the different topics because it's happening here. There was a similar case, and then there's Black Lives Matter protests, and they see their aunties and uncles that we've adopted
Mhm.
protesting here as well. So I'd like to answer those questions and be open and honest with them. And a large part of their books on their bookshelves
Mhm.
are Black Americans. Black Americans in history. So I make sure that that part is covered. That is never ever an issue. You know.
But I also think it's interesting because they're also French, like they're French citizens. Their dad
Yeah.
is French, and
Yeah.
France has a very interesting history of Black people, like as well, right?
Yep.
Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's always amazing to me, especially when I'm in America, that people are shocked that there are French speaking Black people. When I'm like, go to like the African continent, like, like, like you don't even have to go to France, but like go to like. There's no time that I've ever been in France where Black people and white people haven't come up to me trying to speak French and then shocked when like I respond in English, like literally horrified. And it's usually Black people that are horrified, like.
She don't. She's pretending. Girl, well, I mean, there was. This is a little side note. There was a time period where there were some French Afro-Caribbean folks posing as Americans. I am not even kidding. And I didn't believe it till I saw it for my own eyes, and then I started speaking English, and they're like, actually, I'm from. And I was like, okay. I'm not saying it's because of that, but that's the thing. It's very mixed here. So in their eyes, why wouldn't you be a French speaker? You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah.
Oh
France.
yeah, I think it's like so do you in Paris, particularly like in Paris because that's where you live, like do you feel isolated? Like how connected are you to other Black people? I know you've mentioned it before, but I just really
Yeah.
kind of want to stress the fact that like there are Black people in Paris, there are Black people in France.
I am very connected, girl. I mean, you know what I mean? I am so. I looked at just the progression of the past, I'd say 22 years, because even though I've been here officially 20 years, I was here, well, I was in Dijon in 98, and I still have a lot of those friends, that are my husband's friends as well. And I just noticed how slowly, a lot of those friends, the majority of my friends have become Black American artists here, or, French artists of all horizons, but they're artists, and it's a special type of French. And just French or just Parisian, it's very rare. You know what I mean?
That's
Um,
very interesting. Okay.
so here, I don't have any issue. Like I don't feel left out at all. Like I don't feel like I don't belong because I have so many. My whole a good part of my tribe is Black. Being Black American, just Black from the diaspora,
Yeah.
girl. So
And that's
that.
such a beautiful thing. Like people don't get like how expansive like the Black diaspora is. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
amazing when you see like how we overlap, but then how we're different. Like
Girl, yeah, and even when we moved to this neighborhood because we bought the apartment here, and it's not so far from our old place, so we could have taken the push scooters, been very Parisian, and gone up the hill for about 15 minutes to their old school, the private school, or I could have taken them where I decided to take them, which is a 1 minute walk from our house, and I decided to put them there because the thing about the private school, which was it was nice. There was the English program with teachers from Australia and a couple from London, but it was very white. It was very white Catholic, with a few folks of color sprinkled in here and there. And I felt like my kids weren't getting an accurate image of what life really is and what life here in particular is. And so when I went there, and I was like, there are all colors up in this school, all types of accents, you know what I mean? I loved it. Like now, their best friends' names, they're not very French. They're from like, there's Zakaria, Ibrahim, they're from Morocco, Algeria, Senegal, Mauritius,
mhm.
Israel. I just think that's amazing. You know what I mean? And that's what I want them to be exposed to. I think that is amazing. And a couple of them have come over here, and I was working on the computer, and then one of them walked out, and then he was like, "Madame, This is Tidian from the Ivory Coast. He had just moved here. He said, "Dorian and Gabriel, those are my boys. They said you're a singer. Are you really a singer?" And I was like, "Yeah." And all of a sudden, I'm like the coolest mom of the whole school. You know what I mean? And so the kids come over and they dance and they sing and we make up songs and stuff. But I just love that. I don't know, you know. So I mean, yeah, I love that my kids are seeing the diversity. I love that my kids are seeing, reflections of themselves as well. And I love that my kids are understanding that, life doesn't, or, it doesn't resemble their old school, which was mostly kids from richer families going to, the Maldives, for their spring break, we're just, what are you guys doing? I was like, well, I'm taking my kids to choir practice for, well, we're going here, we're going to wherever. And I'm like, okay, have fun, And I didn't want my kids to think that that's what life really was about, Not that I won't enjoy a good island here and there, but I need them to be, I don't know.
The gamut, like they get to see it all, like and know
Yeah.
that all those, especially I think in like when you just think about Paris, like you got everybody there. You got rich
Yeah.
people, poor people, and everything
Yep.
like, in between. And I mean, it's a city that I love, as you know. As you
I mean, I love that.
know, me
I
running,
love that.
me running around trying to find a beret, but
Oh
you're
my God, that's hilarious.
mad at me.
Well, hey, why not? I was thinking about you when I saw berets. Like, after that, I was like, oh,
So I was like, I've lived here. When I was in Paris, I was like, Crystal, I gotta get a beret. I want to walk out. She's just like, Jackie, I don't think I've ever seen anybody in a beret.
okay. But you know what? Shortly after that, I saw them in this tourist shop. I was like, dang, she could have gotten four and gotten the fifth one for free, child. Oh my gosh. But yeah, yeah,
Crystal, thank you so much for taking this time. If there's any like lasting advice that you could give somebody, because you've done it, you've seen the gamut, you've formed a life, like an amazing life, like
yeah.
doing what you love, have a beautiful family, like you're doing the most, and I'm so proud of you. You inspire
Oh,
me. But
girl, likewise.
thank you. But please do give like my audience just some lasting advice. If this is something they want to see for themselves or a version of this, like what
Yeah.
suggestions would you give to them?
First of all, break out of the mold. Do you know what I mean? There is no set of instructions. There is no you go to this school and you get this job. That's done with. I don't even think that ever really worked, to be honest, but whatever. Don't be afraid to take, a chance. Set it up. Anything you like, whatever you're good at, whatever you're really, really good at, and you want to wake up and do, work on that one thing and work on figuring out how the heck it can take you to where you want to go. And even once you get to that place, you might want to go someplace else. You know what I mean? There is nothing stopping you besides the coronavirus right now, But when that's done,
Which it will be
set,
done one day.
it is going to be done soon. I am claiming that. Shoot. Set it up. Get rid of the excuses. There are no more excuses. It doesn't, and some people are like, well, I'm 40, I'm 45. There's no such thing as job stability anymore. And you know what I mean? There is no such thing as job stability. So take away all those old ways of thinking, make it happen, get rid of the excuses, stop buying the Starbucks. If you want to take some money for Starbucks or wherever else, just take that same money and put it in a little pot. Set you up something online, get your visa, get whatever you need, your passport, and just go. Honestly, that's all I can say. And whatever happens, just keep it moving. Just keep adapting. I was just talking to my colleague Jua about this yesterday. We've had so many things where we've been in instances like huge venues and stuff has stopped working. We have made it work. Like we played an acoustic set. You just keep the ball just going. Don't ever let that stuff stop you. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that little detail is not going to matter. People aren't going to remember that. And you're going to be so proud of yourself for actually taking the leap. So just do it. Don't let that other stuff stop you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate those words, and I'm so blessed that I had know you and have known you for over 20 years because you're an amazing. And I'm glad that my audience is getting to like meet you. And tell us your social handles if you don't mind, so that like if people want to check you out, they can.
Yes. So for my performing arts program for children, it's Shay, which is Chez or Z. I've been here too long. Chez Crystal. That's for everything. And if not, you can just find me at crystalpetit, Petit.com.
Yay! Thank you so much, Crystal. I so appreciate you being on my show today.
I appreciate coming. You know, I'd like to talk to you. So, oh, thank you so much for thinking a little of me.
Hey, black girl, hey, you good? Because I'm fabulous. I'm a digital nomad, and my lifestyle allows my daughter and I to experience new places, culture, foods, and people. Living abroad and or traveling full-time is amazing. It is freedom. I can work from anywhere. I want more black women to experience the same sort of freedom. I help black women manifest their dreams of a life abroad or a full-time travel. Are you ready for a life beyond your wildest dreams?